We're going to try to finish this program now by implementing the undo and redo operations and changing our program from using that useful but somewhat uninteresting list to using two things called stacks. And what a stack is exactly like what it sounds like. It's like a stack of cards or a stack of plates waiting to be washed. The idea of a stack is that as you add things to the stack, they kind of pile up, and in order to remove something from the stack, you remove it from the top. The operations that we're going to deal with, instead of using add as with a list, we're going to use push to add things to the stacks and pop to remove them. So we are going to have to use these two items in our menu. I'm going to make accelerators for them, or shortcut keys. So undo is normally Control Z. So I'm going to say Control and then at the bottom Z. And redo is normally Control Y, although I can honestly say I've never pressed it. Control Y. Okay, so we have those shortcuts in there. Let's go to our form, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to comment out our list. And what we're going to do instead is we're going to replace it with two stacks. So we're going to say stack superpoint can undo, and that's going to be a stack of the points as we draw them. So every time we draw something, we're going to add it to the list of points that can be undone. And we're also going to make a stack can redo, and we'll create that stack. Oh, I spelled stack wrong, that's why. Okay, and this is again a super point, or stack of super points. Now what we're going to do is down here where we have mypoints.add, we're going to modify that to say can undo.push. Okay. So that's going to add the point to the stack of points that can be undone. Instead of going through the list my points, we're going to go through the stack can undo. And alright, so our program should still function. We can draw things, and just like before, our alterations with color for the super point work correctly. Now we have these two buttons, but they're not currently doing anything. So let's actually add some functionality to the buttons themselves. First thing we're going to do is disable both buttons. And I know that sounds weird, but when you first start this program, you can't undo or redo because there's nothing to undo or redo. So I'm going to say undo menu item dot enabled equals false, and redo menu or tool strip menu item dot enabled equals false. So they're going to be initially disabled. If I obviously draw anything, then my undo menu strip item can be re-enabled. So another thing that occurs is if I have undone something, I can immediately redo it. But if I undo something and then I do something else, I can no longer redo the other thing. So I'm also going to clear the possible redo, can redo. So once I've clicked again after I've undone something, I will no longer be able to redo the thing that I undid. And that'll make sense. If you just go into Microsoft Word and you try typing something, undo it, type something else, you can no longer redo the thing that you undid. So we're just trying to make it function like one would expect. We then need to actually add the code for inside these buttons. So I want to undo something, but I can only undo something is if the can undo is has a count greater than 1. Theoretically, the enabling and disabling of the buttons themselves should control that. So I shouldn't be able to click undo unless it's enabled, and it shouldn't be enabled unless there's something in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take something that was supposed to be done, so something on the can undo stack, and we're going to move it over onto the can redo stack. So I'm going to say can redo dot push can undo dot pop. Now if can undo dot count equals 0, then I'm going to say undo menu strip item dot enabled equals false. So I'm going to basically disable the undo if I have undone everything, and I will also enable the redo one, because if I've undone something, then I'm going to be able to redo it. I can now add code also to redo, and if I'm typing too fast, of course, you can just pause it, right? So once I've redone something, it goes on to the can undo stack. So I'm going to say can undo dot push can redo dot pop, and then if can redo dot count equals 0. That means that I have redone everything that I am able to. So I'm going to say that redo enabled equals false. And of course, if I've added something that I can undo, then the undo menu strip item has to be enabled. And when I'm in class, hopefully tomorrow, we can kind of walk through the logic of the undo and the redo. One last thing we need to do, when we undo or we redo, we also have to cause the screen to redraw. So at the end of each of these, I'm going to say active form dot invalidate and that's just going to mean that after we've removed something, so this is we've clicked undo, if we've undone something we need to redraw, and if we've redone something we also need to redraw. So we're going to say active form dot invalidate, and now our undo and redo stacks should be operational. So I draw something, I can undo, and you'll see that it's kind of removing things. I'm just going to hammer Control Z for a while, and Control Y will redo them. But if I click, then I can no longer redo what was there. Now that's interesting. It would seem that if you hammer the shortcut keys, you can circumvent this the disabling of the actual the disabling of the menu strip button there, the item in the menu strip. So what we can do is we could make this more robust by actually saying only if can redo dot count is greater than 0 do we enter this code, and that should avoid that particular error we just got if someone's hammering on the shortcut key. Dot count is greater than 0, and same thing. So wrapping those does or should allow us to avoid that particular crash feature. So Control Z undoes, Control Y redoes, and of course if I had different size and different colors, that wouldn't matter. So I can still undo those, and I can still redo them, and they retain their original color and size. Alright, so that's as far as I wanted to go with this particular program. But you could add other features. You could you could add a toolbar here. You could allow the drawing of lines and squares and circles and filling things in. And you could allow for saving and loading the images that you draw. You could save them as JPEGs or BMPs. Possibly PNGs as well. So you could actually recreate all of Microsoft Paint if you wanted to. You could also worry about the layering. So you can see here, as I'm drawing things, it's actually layered strangely, because the original thing that I drew goes on top. So you could work on that if you wanted to. But basically, the point of this was lists. We can add things by using add and then navigate through it either with regular array syntax with the square brackets, which we didn't do here, but we could have, or with a for each statement, and then of course stacks, which you can still navigate the same way as lists with the for each statement, but have the added push and pop functionality, which allow you to do things like the undo and redo operations. Alright, I will post this along with the code. Thank you.